Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Chantal Rochelle, and today I'm joined by the host of Revolt TV's hit show, State of the Culture. Please join me in welcoming Joe Budden, Remy Ma, Brandon Jinx, and Eboni K. Williams. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Build. How's it going? Thank you for being here.
Really good.
Congratulations on the new season.
Thank you.
Now, for those who are not familiar with the show, can you tell us a little bit what it's about and how it came to be?
The show is a hip-hop panel talk show that's about all the things that are happening in hip-hop and industry and pop culture, as well as the things that are not happening, and the things that we aren't hearing people speak about. And the show came to be because Puff and myself probably felt there was a void and a vacancy in the talk space in terms of certain things that needed to be addressed for us and by us.
And Joe, you moderate the show and the panel, and you're basically.
I try.
I mean, you steer the conversation. So when you are, thinking about your topics, how do you approach that, and do you all collectively brainstorm, get in a room? How do you choose your topics that you're going to talk about?
I think we all like to bring things to the table that are unique to us and important to us, things that we are passionate about, things that aren't so fluffy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and what are some things, Remy, that we can expect to hear about this season on the show?
What are we expecting to hear about?
Yeah, what topics are you talking about? What can we expect to stay tuned for?
I mean, well, considering that it's based on current events, I can't really say what we're going to be talking about. I don't know what's happening, but pretty much whatever's happening, what's going on, and what's moving the culture. Those are the things that we're going to address. Those are the things that we're going to talk about. And some of the things that are moving the culture that others are not talking about, you'll hear it from us.
Absolutely. And Eboni, you are a newcomer to the show, joining this last season.
Yeah.
What have you, your background being an attorney, what have you been able to use from your skill set to bring to this show?
Well, it's a really fortunate opportunity for me because, the reality is there's a lot of intersection of the culture in justice, right? Whether it's legal issues, social justice issues, or what have you. So, for instance, on our debut episode, which drops tonight on YouTube and tomorrow, of course, on Revolt TV, of course, we talk about the latest with Jussie Smollett.
Yes.
And
I never want to talk about Jussie Smollett again.
I know.
He just keeps coming out.
Every yes.
I keep trying to dead it.
Yeah, Joe was trying to kill it on the pre-conference editorial call, but I refused to let it die because it was a learning opportunity, actually. So to your question, there's this whole thing, a little tease here, cash or ass, and that's a legal doctrine coined by myself, but it's a real learning opportunity for the culture to understand how money plays into the criminal justice system, and that's a real thing. And so we take a headline, but we turn it into a teachable moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you all bring your unique perspective to the show. Remy and Joe, you being musical artists, right? You both.
Wait, ask Jinx something now.
And Jinx as well, absolutely. Jinx, I haven't forgotten about you. Jinx, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm tied back to you. I'm tied back to you. But the millennial, your aspect that you bring to the show, right? How do you, as the youngest panel host on the show, how do you bring your perspectives and what you go through to the show?
I like that you say I'm young. I'm not that young.
Much
but,
younger than
You told them that?
Yeah, but you wouldn't put these young people shades
I
on.
never said that. But I mean, I guess for me, it's super plugged into the internet. I'm also the one who they're artists, right? I'm essentially representing the fan base, right? So I'm representing journalists, artists that fans that listen to music, that care about celebrity culture, pop culture, hip hop. So I try to kind of take on that ethos, and a lot of times we're pushing back, but they come from a different perspective. They come from the lived-in perspective.
Yeah.
I kind of come from the perspective that orbits it and watches it, and I think that that's important to. I mean, we not that we fight or have debate. We have more debates, right? So they come from a perspective that's hey, this actually happened to me, and I'm well, this is what it looks like from the outside.
Yeah.
And so I feel that I don't know if that's a millennial perspective, but that's just another angle to sort of push the dialogue further to challenge them.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the dialogue and that millennial aspect, you are creative, you're a photographer, and so having to showcase things on social media now, how has social media and Twitter influenced the way that you approach your show? So are you reading comments? Are you looking at feedback? Does that steer in any way the conversations that you have?
For me, yeah, but it's
Don't lie.
for me, yeah, because that's where, as a journalist, that's where a lot of the work lives at. That's where you get a lot of the news, right? We just saw All-Star Weekend take place. Most of that's happening, everything that's happening besides the game is happening on social media. You can see it captured there. So we're all keeping a keen eye to it. And it's, we all have our different interests. So like even if we're all looking at, let's say, All-Star Weekend or a new album release, we're all seeing different people talk about it. So that helps to influence our perspectives, or it helps to influence the things that we think are wrong or right. So we're going to bring that to the table and show it on set.
I think we have different perspectives when it comes to, reading the comments and the feedback from the outside, because me and Joe have been in the industry for a while, and as artists, we're kind of a little bit more used to the scrutiny and the dissecting, and we're more like not really caring about it.
It alters nothing.
It just
At all. Like
doesn't.
we come in the next week and we like, oh, that's what you said. Now I'm gonna really piss you off.
We're like, I have a breakdown.
Where Jinx is like, I'm not ever talking about that ever again. And I remember when Eboni first came to the show, she was like, oh my God, Remy, your fans, they're a little ruthless, you know?
Were they coming for you, Eboni?
They are rabid fans. They love and I love them now.
At the time, like, yo, she's the fan. Relax, calm down. Like it's friendly banter.
And they listened to her though. When she like was like relaxed, they
Yeah.
relaxed.
Yeah, like Remy Mafia wished me happy birthday. Like, I love them.
As they should have. That's what's up.
Absolutely. And Remy and Joe, you mentioned being in the game for as long as you have been. I mean, when you were growing up, social media wasn't this prevalent thing. And so how has that transition been like for you, having everything, like you said, be scrutinized and you not tuning into it? How has that actually impacted the way that you look at projects?
No, I'm aged, Chantel. So social media for me has been prevalent for a pretty long time, just in different forms. I'm from Black Planet, which is
Throwback. Throwback.
I'm just saying there were chat rooms. There were places that you went to kind of just gauge how people were feeling and to communicate. So now, it's great that we have even more. It's great that we have bigger platforms. It's helpful. I advocate. I have advocated for these things. These things have kind of driven me through my career, being able to have that access with my audience. Without the middleman, without the label, without the promoter, without the whoever you want to name. So I thank God for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I come from like a news background, and so my ability to connect with viewers, right, on social media was a bit two-dimensional. What I really appreciate about State of the Culture and the format of the show and the variety of topics, right, and the places in which we go, which I personally think is very unique in the landscape. We go where nobody else really goes, and we are completely unafraid in the way we go there. It allows for viewers to see more of my personality.
Yeah.
They're able to see me beyond just being a lawyer or beyond just being an expert in this space. It's like, who am I as a woman? Who am I as a Black woman? Who am I as a millennial? I just want to also clarify the record on that. I too
yes,
am a
claim
millennial.
it.
Thank you.
I also think Joe was a little humble there.
Hey, when millennials start?
Yeah, I think
Don't try to just lawyer your way into being a millennial.
I am a grandma millennial. I've researched this, Joe.
Okay.
I think y'all might be low key like on the back end of millennial.
Maybe.
Too. Don't do that.
I'm sorry.
Don't do that, Jinx.
I'm sorry, never.
Only
I
separated
think
by
it's
like
that y'all
four.
are.
Oh, that's like when they changed the most of the zodiac sign just out the blue and wanted all us to subscribe to that. No, I'm not wrong.
Social media, the day and age, everything is transitioning. And Jinx, what were you saying?
I was gonna say I thought Joe was being a little humble there. Like I knew growing up as a Joe Budden fan of the music, which is also just fun. Like the other day I was going through some photos. I have an autograph from Remy and like when I was younger, and we met before we. Well, I guess I met you. You ain't meet me. I was in line. But
Oh, Jinxie, you were in Remy Mafia.
I was.
You
I
were.
thought
performed at school.
I was saying I thought Joe's being humble there because he was an early adopter of the internet, right? Like, I mean, Joe Budden TV, early days of using like the internet to distribute his music. And I think even when we were first talking about the show and they were bringing me in, this show is sort of like built in that ideal of this is what's happening. This is how real people are talking. And I know this because I'm on the internet and I've been with the internet as it's evolved. Whereas other shows we've all worked in different forms of media at some point, they don't have this. And so that was a big sell for me when I got brought in, was like, yo, this is gonna look like the way people really talk. And I know it and you know it because we're on the internet.
Absolutely. And being on the internet, how do you think that translates differently as opposed to being on television, right? You're at home. Yes.
Freedom. I'm sorry. I just want to, for me, I just feel emancipated. I truly do. I feel like I have the freedom to say it how I mean it. I don't have the restrictions of the networks, corporate interest in the same way. And I agree with Jinx. I think the medium of being on the internet, it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube, meaning television will always be a linear property and it'll always be important, but the ability to be your unfiltered, unadulterated self is, I can't even put a price on it.
Absolutely. And does that affect the way that you move in your everyday life? Being able to bring your full self to work, right? Being able to be vulnerable. How does that influence the way that you take on future projects, right? When you have this space to be as open as you are here, how do you take that into your other projects and your work?
Oh, that's not really a Joe question because I'm not going to take. I'm not taking a job that I'm not comfortable in, that I can't see myself being happy in. I don't have a point of reference in that area.
Remy, same.
You're
like, you're not going to take it. Yeah.
I was going to try to weasel out of that,
like,
but I know he'd be like, Rem, stop. Like, I kind of have the same thing. And I think that's why we were chosen to come together, and that's why we work so well together, because we don't want someone that's going to hold back or that's going to say what they think the popular opinion is or what they think the safe suggestion or answer is. There is no right or wrong answers. Everyone is allowed to say what they want. I think your question was, how is it different from social media, from the internet? With the internet, you're limited by how many characters you could type. You're limited by, using capitals and punctuations and emojis, which can be read differently depending on who's receiving it. When you're sitting there and you're watching us on the couch and we're interacting, you can tell exactly what tone we're using. You can tell exactly, except for sometimes when they edit it weird and
Let me. I want to add to that because you just gave me to add to that. Like sometimes you got to embrace the value in not knowing.
Yeah.
And I think in doing so, it allows us to do something that's rather unique with this network television show, which is be agile, like kind of be the medium between what the real-time fast pace of the internet and to what Ebony was speaking about earlier, some of the slower, more prehistoric ways that linear television does things. So sometimes you need that person to come in and say, hey, I'm not certain what regular TV standards are, what your normal talk segments or how this is supposed to be in your brain, but you should update. I don't know. Let's find a medium now. This show won't run that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just really powerful because for me, that's what was very attractive to me about this opportunity. It was very organic, and I just can say, as the newcomer to the show, I'm just very grateful, honestly. Like, as somebody who's not necessarily always had the capacity and the same level of freedom to do what we do the way we do in our state of the culture, I show up with a sense of gratitude every time we shoot. And
she get nicknames like E.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets like a little crazy.
Yeah, it's great.
What does the bonding experience look like for you, right? You're not just on the
my God,
couch. You're
Chantel.
I
Let me tell
know,
you.
Joe. Like, it's not just meeting on the couch, right? Like, how do you get that chemistry going so that you're able to have these fluid conversations and respect one another when you come to that couch?
Well, we're also like, we all do different things outside of work. So it's not like, it's not real world. It's not like we're all hanging out. Four strangers pick to live in a crib.
Yeah.
But like, it's like the same way y'all do, right? Like there's a big group chat, lots of jokes, but also like work is in the midst of that. But I guess there are outside of work stuff like, I hear from Rem pretty often, which I always love it because like, I can tell my parents and my friends and stuff like that, like stuff that, because they really love Remy. And I'm like, yeah, Remy's actually really, really cool, and I imagine the same thing happens on her end. And I think those moments to just like connect as real people, you don't miss out, but it's not like we're all every day just like shooting dice and like hanging out.
Yeah.
To the point so much that when we actually came back to work, we were all like, I missed you so much. Oh my God.
I like these guys. I do. I like my co-hosts.
He means guys.
I like these guys,
I like the crew, the guys and gals, but I like it. It's an interesting bunch, and it just works.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did miss these guys a lot.
Yeah, and when you have this space to come back and recollect, we just recently had the passing of Kobe Bryant. So when you have to shift the tone, right? When you're approaching the show, how do you go into that?
Oh no, we were off air when that happened. I would have broken down.
Yeah. But say the show was on air, how do you navigate the tone shift? Say you're going into the conversation, you're wanting to, hey, we have the top stories of the day, but you're having to shift that tone to reach the audience and using your platform to reach the people where they are.
I would have done it differently than Gayle King and Charles Barkley.
Okay. How would you have done it?
Differently than them.
Can I speak to that though? I
Yeah.
think Joe is again being humble, right? So as you mentioned, Joe moderates the show. Joe
Mm-hmm.
really sets the tempo and leads and navigates the conversation. One thing that I've noticed, I mean, this is a hip hop talk show, so I think the knee jerk, right, is it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and it is that. But when the show must open with the passing of an icon of the culture, Joe sets that tone, and then he transitions us into something that's completely hysterical and funny, you know? And so I think that is a gift, actually. I think it's a skill set, and it's a necessary one because that is the reality of the culture.
Yeah.
Everything's not funny and fun and games. Some things are heavy. Some things are, with the 20th anniversary of the passing of Big Pun, we had, you know, we got into that in the debut. So we weave in and out of the levity and the lighthearted subjects that represent the culture as well, but the reality of some of the heavier content as well.
I also think like there's definitely been tears on set before, you know.
There's not been tears.
It's only me.
Yeah, there's been tears.
It's only Joe that
The
does
one
this.
time he was crying, I was crying. But also there's also a dedication to treating this serious stuff serious, right? Like let's say there's I don't know, a new album that drops between maybe the time we filmed and the time it airs. We'll talk about it, but we're like, you know, maybe that, like a surprise album, maybe we missed it, right?
Yeah.
And that happens, and it gives us more time to think about it, prepare for the next episode. But I remember our very, very, very first taping. Mac Miller passed, and we had filmed already, and literally we got out the set, and then we found out he had passed away. It was Joe's decision, like, hey, we need to come back. And we went back the next day and just redid the whole thing. It was our first time ever being around each other, and we went and did 2 episodes back to back. And that was something that we felt was serious. But to piggyback off what E was saying, it is, like the show's super black, and I always think about like, if you ever been to like a homegoing or a funeral, like everyone's not there crying. You know what I mean? Like in any black circumstance, you're gonna have a range of emotions because that's how we have to live with that. We have to both walk out every day in the real world and protect ourselves and find time for levity. You know, you think about that at any type of like black family experience. It's that same thing, right? Like where there might be some tension, but there's also a lot of laugh, a lot of love, you know, a lot of challenging and debate that happens. Think about like a dinner at your house. That's what the show is.
Absolutely, and we're all tuning in, watching you bring us into your
I
home.
almost cried.
Yeah,
during
that was
you
beautiful.
Saying that.
I'm crying now. I just, you know, my glasses are collecting them at the bottom.
Let me just break down real quick what each relative is. Joe's the relative that's definitely gonna cry. He's
Okay.
gonna cry.
Okay.
I love
He's gonna
crying.
make the whole, like that's his favorite thing to do. I actually cursed him out one time. Like the next time you do that, give me a heads up, a warning. Do not don't just
cry.
bust out crying. I
Rick
need-
doesn't want anyone appearing soft by her.
No, it's not that. It's just, bruh, let me know. Give me a
Like,
heads
give me a
up.
heads
I
up.
don't know how to react to people that are just instantly crying. Like, if I know I'm going, I'm like, all right, this is what I got to say.
You know what you're getting
Let me get
into.
my consoling words together. He
Which is
just
funny because
busts
I don't
out.
think it was ever like a real ugly cry. Like like I don't. It was never that.
It was stylish
Tear.
tears. Like
That's
those,
what I'm
yeah.
saying. I thought it was.
Jinx is the relative that's just like, I'm just gonna sit over here and
Go
you
outside
know,
for a walk.
You know, mind my business.
Who's the
If you give me-
jokester of you all? Who's the jokester?
Who isn't?
I think Remy's the biggest jokester.
I don't, yo.
Remy stays with the giggles at anybody's expense. Anybody's. No
Are you a
one's
prankster,
safe.
Remy?
No one's safe.
I mean, that's serious. They just think it's funny.
I wish the edits showed because usually the way they talk, I catch everyone's jokes, and I'm always laughing in the camera. Sometimes it doesn't catch me, but like Joe will say something so quick, and the audience, it'll be on camera, and no one catches it. And I literally go through the comments, maybe like 2 or 3 people catch it, but it's funny. Like some of the funniest stuff does not make the show. We're talking about bloopers this season.
Oh wow, we need bloopers. We
need
gotta
bloopers.
have it.
I've
Do.
been a fan
I mean,
of
put
that.
on YouTube, let the people watch
Extra
it.
digital
Who
content.
holds the people accountable? Who's the accountability partner of you all? Who is like, yo, like take you to the side, talk to you? Who does that?
I don't think anybody does that, but if it was somebody, who you think it would be?
See, this is that slick shit Remy be doing.
I could see that. Like, hey, girl, Remy, girl, let me talk to you for a second.
Well, Joe and I already have a conversation set up for after this show.
Oh, okay.
We do.
Alrighty. Well, we are going to open up to an audience question from Kim. Kim, you have a question from you?
Look how the light shined on Kim.
Yes.
So she had the mic already?
Hey.
Yeah, this is like
Hey.
Hi, my question is, since hip hop has started having a pretty notable impact on like things like politics, what other areas of society or life do you guys feel like hip hop could also influence?
That was a good
That's a great question. I mean, I'll speak from my background. I think legislation, right? I think whether it's looking at all of the numerous state statutes that are dealing with hair discrimination, right? A lot of this really has its origins in hip hop and hip hop culture, and how the culture aesthetically shows up. So now you've got states like California with the Crown Act. You've got states across the country following suit that are saying time's up on discriminating against predominantly black people because of the way they choose to show up at work or in life. So I think there's a real correlation between hip hop and even legislative efforts.
Hip hop and anywhere we insert ourselves.
I also think health. There's been artists that have talked about mental health for years, but I think you're starting to find. See, the thing too is, it's like when you look at hip hop, it's already been in these corners, right? It's already been in politics, already been in health, mental health, physical health, finance. But people are starting, the outside world is starting to look at it a little bit differently. Like growing up, I heard the rules to life just listening to Hot 97, and I mean that. Like how to live outside, count your money, like how to do all the, really, like bless you, to do all those things. And so I think about, it feels like the outside world is having a more intelligent and sensible conversation, because they're starting to respect the people that are saying it. They're not looking at them because of their outside rapping, you know, their presentation and discounting them. But hip hop's always said these things. Like even, like I'm drinking juices now, and Styles P's been selling us juices for 10 years.
Fam, we got rappers on cereal boxes. We have rappers, entertainers or singers that are leading fashion houses. Like anywhere that you name where you can identify hip hop, we have been impactful. And that's where the whole know your value conversation starts to take place. Like, know what you bring when you come. And as hip hop, we bring a whole lot.
Well, I feel like that's because hip hop, since it started, I like to call it, like, you know, the CNN of the culture of what's going on. So when it first came out, that was what people listened to music for. And hip hop, particularly, it would talk about what was going on in the neighborhoods, whether it was police brutality, drug use, things with family issues.
Parenting.
Yeah, family issues. And now it's on such a large scale that people, not only like everyone up here said, we've been talking about it, but now the stature of the people that are telling these stories is much higher, and it's taken much more seriously. I can't name how many politics have reached out to, you know, artists to come and help speak whatever point that they're trying to get across. I feel a lot of the elections that are even being held in the most recent years have been pushed forward mainly by entertainers, celebrities, and creatives.
And this is all stuff that we are so excited to find out about the new season. Thank you all for being here, Brandon, Ebony, Remy, and Joe.
Thank
so
you for
excited
having
for the
us.
new season. Congratulations.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all.
Right.